UFC Kansas City. This is the weigh-in recap show, full card predictions, and the betting breakdown. Main event, Max Holloway fights Arnold Allen. We're going to talk about each of the matchups after seeing the fighters on the scales. Make sure you guys smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Turn those post notifications on and make sure to share the video as well. Also note, full card fight companion, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. Make sure you tune into it. And let's start it off with the first one. Joselyne Edwards versus Lucie Pudilová. I have been picking the side of Joselyne Edwards throughout the week. A pick that is iffy, because Joselyne Edwards is not an extremely high-level girl. She's pretty quick with her kicks. She's fairly long. She's previously fought at 145. And Pudilová, never been all that great in the UFC. Has taken some time outside of the octagon, gotten wins. So now we bring a lot to the scales. I'll note this. Joselyne Edwards missed weight, but it was not like her frame was of a big concern, so I didn't feel it was necessary to bring her up specifically on the scale. But what we do have is the face-off. You can see they are eye to eye with one another. The red hair of Joselyne Edwards is almost an auto fade. If it was blue, my confidence would maybe be a bit higher. I, in my gut, am very torn between this matchup. I don't feel a significant confidence either way. I've been picking Joselyne Edwards all week, so I am going to stick to my guns, but I really feel as this is no bet for me on this fight. Sit back, watch it, and hopefully enjoy it. But as far as the odds, Edwards plus money, plus 120. Pudilová at minus 132. If I had to throw down, if I was forced to bet something here, where would I lean? I lean towards this fight being Edwards to win by decision, which is upwards of plus 200, or potentially over 2.5 rounds at nearly minus 300. I do expect it to go all three. I think Edwards wins it on a competitive decision, but it would not blow my mind if the Pudilová side got her hand raised. Let's keep running up. Gaston Bolaños versus Phillips. I've been picking Gaston Bolaños throughout the week, and I'm expecting a knockout here. Scales of no real concern. Not much of a change in my stance. You got Mr. Inactivity versus Mr. Bellator. You listen, normally a Bellator guy crossing over who had an iffy record wouldn't be a confident pick, but I do think Bolaños looks tremendous. He looks shredded, ready to fight. I expect him to be dangerous. I see a finish. I see Bolaños with the first or second round KO, so I do think we're going under 2.5 rounds. I think Bolaños is getting the knockout win. The hands should get to Phillips, who I don't think is at the same capabilities in the kickboxing department, but Phillips likes to strike as well. Listen, 33, never done well in the UFC without a win in the octagon. Has been out for a while. 2 years, 8 months? It's like Jack Shore's whole UFC career. Bolaños should get a knockout win. Bolaños is minus 180. Phillips at plus 165. I prefer Bolaños money line if I was to throw down. Now, let's put a red flag on. You're betting a guy making his debut who is 6-3 in MMA, also 6-3 in Bellator. He's lost by submission before. He's lost by decision before. Under 2.5, minus 140, I do think happens. Bolaños by knockout at ever so slight plus money at plus 135. I'm picking the Gaston Bolaños side to be victorious in this fight, and I'm pretty sure I'm right on this one right here. I'm not going with Mr. Part-Time Fighter Phillips. Ladies going after it in the next one, Bruna Brasil, Denise Gomes. I've been picking Denise Gomes for the upset. Now, I'll note Bruna Brasil has a very upright, karate-esque kickboxing style that is good. My question is when Denise Gomes closes the gap. My question is when they go to the floor, how will Bruna Brasil respond? They think Denise Gomes is pretty nasty in there. Also note she went the distance in her last fight against Loma Lookboonmee, who in my opinion is pretty fucking dangerous. I think Loma's got big potential. I'm picking Denise Gomes still. I don't really feel a pick flip. We'll bring up the scales here. Both fighters on weight, no issues. but you look at the side of the face-off and see if you feel any intensity difference. Little bit of the height edge for Brazil, which we already knew. I don't know. Gomes doesn't look 23. Looking at her here, she looks like 28. Very mature frame and face for her age. And I think that carries her far in this fight. I'm going to say Gomes wins a hard-fought decision in an upset. So I am going dog upset side. The line is not crazy wide, though. Gomes around that plus 125 range. Bruna, Brazil at minus 145. Looking towards the prop betting side, probably over at minus 200. I know Brazil is a finisher in the last fight, but going to be hard to finish off Gomes. Gomes by a decision, plus 265. I'd say money line Gomes, but there's a good shot they go long. And there's a good shot it's upset Gomes decision. But Bruna, Brazil, not an easy out. Close money favorite. I think Brazil loses a hard-fought decision to Gomes. Though, note that Brazil is a little bit more technically sound. I question her capabilities in the close range. And that's where Gomes, I think, has the edge. And also on the mat. So we're going Gomes for the win. Decision. Next fight on the card. We got Lando Vannata. Daniel Zellhuber. I've been picking the side of Daniel Zellhuber in this one, and I was excited to see the face-offs, to feel the energy. I'll note both guys are bringing the fucking excitement. They both look ready for a hard fight here. Lando coming up from 145, so obviously there's going to be no troubles with the scale, and it's not like he looked out of shape. He's still relatively lean. We'll pull up the official face-offs, though, and you're not going to notice Lando's leanness. What you're going to notice is it's Stefan Struve across from him. Zellhuber, so much taller, 6'1 to 5'9". That looks like 6'4 to 5'7". Holy shit. Zellhuber from distance is an out kickbox, so I see a decision win in a striking display. But note, Zellhuber has dangerous strikes, like still has finishing capabilities. The reason I think it goes longer is because I have strong respect for the durability of Vannata on the opposite side. What I like in this fight is simply one bet. It will be money line Daniel Zellhuber, who sits around that minus 130 range, and then Vannata upwards of plus 120. We probably go longer at minus 190, but I like money lining Zellhuber. I don't love the idea of propping things up. Sure, Zellhuber could be dangerous and get a KO. Plus 425, it would be more of a reach. Zellhuber plus 200. For me, the money line is a close tag, near even, and I'm going to say Zellhuber by decision, official call, but it's not impossible he gets some violence underway. It's not like he doesn't have finishes. Recent fights been going longer, and they're against good competition level. Lando Vannata, good fight for him. Is he the best guy Zellhuber's fought? I think there's a good chance Lucas Almeida and Trey Ogden both beat Lando Vannata. It's a big name, but I don't think the best fighter Zellhuber's seen across from him. I'm saying Zellhuber win, and I'm saying he's getting a clean, unanimous decision in a hard-fought one. Hopefully he gets a finish, though. I'm hoping for some finishes, but I do think there'll be a lot of decisions on this card. Next fight, ladies going after it. Piera Rodriguez and Gillian Robertson. I've been picking the Piera Rodriguez side. She's got solid takedowns. She's competent on the floor, and she's definitely the better striker than Gillian. But note that Gillian Robertson has tremendous Brazilian jiu-jitsu. She's also dropping to 115, and there was no issues with the scales. Robertson looked fairly solid. And we'll look at the face-off because for a girl that was previously fighting up at 125, it's not like she dwarfed Piera Rodriguez. You can see a little bit of a height edge, a little bit maybe more muscularity on the back. So I do think this is ultimately going to be a competitive fight. Could Gillian Robertson get the win? The biggest question mark lies is now that she's cutting an additional 10 pounds, how's her gas tank? I know Piera Rodriguez is ready for 3 hard ones. I'm going to say Piera Rodriguez by a hard-fought decision win. I don't see her fumbling the bag here. If I saw Gillian winning, I'm trying to imagine how it would be. I think it would be earlier in the fight, under a round and a half, by submission. But I have a hard time seeing her finishing Piera. I think Piera's getting it done. Win by decision. Piera Rodriguez. Plus money for Piera. Plus 115. She happens to be a dog here. Robertson upwards of minus 125. Probably over, but I wouldn't play it. The plus money side of Piera Rodriguez money line would be the smartest attack in this fight here. And then looking towards the side of Piera Rodriguez to win by a decision, I do think possible. Plus 275, not necessarily a favorite play though. Piera Rodriguez on the money line side, you are getting plus money, and that's what I like. So I'd rather money line plus Piera. Let's go. Let's go. Piera Rodriguez for the win. I think she does beat Gillian. Next fight on the card. It's Ed Herman versus Zak Cummings. Battle of the OGs. And when I bring up the face-off, you might get a little bit of a laugh. I'll note something. I picked Zak Cummings throughout the week, but I red flagged a couple things about him. The 2.5-year layoff being kind of like the least of my concerns. The back surgery that he recently had is a concern. Ed Herman did not look young as he walked up to the scales, and neither did Zak Cummings. He didn't look in good shape. So, betting side of things, even though the pick is Zak Cummings, and I'll bring up the face-off, and you'll see if anything changes for us. We'll look at this, all right? Look at Ed Herman. Ed Herman looks his age, and you see thickness in the midsection for him, and you see thickness in the midsection for Zak Cummings. Neither guy looks to be in world title challenger shape. Neither guy looks like a world-class athlete. These are both two fighters who at this point are at the tail end. Zak Cummings mentioned, hey, I'm probably going to retire after this one. So I got 42-year-old Ed Herman to pick from, or 38-year-old who's probably going to retire. I mean, it's not like Ed Herman's probably not going to retire either. A battle of the OGs, I think, respect these guys, let them just slug it out and go to war. I'm picking Zak Cummings to win a decision. But when we bring up the betting side, you're going to be like, hell no. Minus 210 for pudgy Zak Cummings? It's not a bet I want to play. I also don't love the idea of playing a 40-something-year-old underdog. Now, if I had to tell you, yo, plus money side, yes, Ed Herman at plus 190 is an appealing bet. More for the side of, the size edge being a natural light heavyweight. I know he's fought at middleweight previously, but Zak Cummings also was a welterweight. 42, though. Can you really comfortably be backing a 42-year-old fighter, even though Zak Cummings is 38? My official prediction is Zak Cummings. Without these intangibles, maybe Zak Cummings would be a confident pick, but then him also looking like he's got a spare tire. I don't like the betting side here at all. Probably over 2.5, but who knows? Somebody's lights could get shut off here. None of these props are interesting me either. I'm looking closely at them. Any big plus money? Cummings KO plus 550. Herman sub plus 1,400. Herman KO plus 900. I feel like this might be one you sit back and watch. Probably goes over a round and a half at minus 290 best value. Zak Cummings should edge it out on the cards, but so much time away from him. And I mean, it's not like Ed Herman's been active either. He's been out almost 2 years, and he did not look good. He looked like old Ed Herman. Not old like the previous Ed Herman, like Ed Herman got older. So sit back, watch this fight. Betting side is not going to be a strong recommendation. I understand the value side of betting and looking for the plus money on the short fuse side, but note that he's 42.5. Note that this is the end of the road for both these guys. We shall find out. Pick officially Zak Cummings. But, I don't like the betting side. Next fight on the card. Brandon Royval, Matheus Nicolau. I've been pretty confident on Matheus Nicolau all week. He's facing off against a dangerous fighter in Brandon Royval, who's also, a contender on the come-up. Young guy in the game who I think is coming into his own. Both guys just 30, so primes really right now. We see the face-off here. A little bit of a size edge for Royval, confidence for Nicolau. Both guys came in looking in tremendous shape, lean, ready to rock. I think Matheus Nicolau is just the superior technician in this fight. That's why I picked him earlier in the week, and that's why I'll still pick him. There's nothing from the scales that have changed my opinion. I expected both guys to look pretty good. They're hungry contenders on the come-up. Nicolau is going to be a little bit more dangerous with his counter strikes. Royval, a little bit more unorthodox and maybe unexpected attacks that he could land on Nicolau. Though Nicolau is more of a back foot fighter, he likes to move. He doesn't need to engage in a war. I'm leaning Nicolau. I could see him catching Royval, coming in reckless and locking a sub. But I would say zero surprise if we go the distance here. So the betting side of this fight, unless you are looking more for value, for me, moneyline Nicolau at minus 188. Earlier in the week, he was the lock. I don't know after the weigh-ins if I still feel the same. We'll talk the lock and the weigh-ins, as we come up to it. But I am picking Nicolau to win. I really do think he gets it done. I don't really like the idea of the overs here. I talked about potentially playing Nicolau by sub. So plus 600, plus 500. If you believe Nicolau could club and sub Brandon Royval, which I do believe could happen, it is a valuable bet because plus 600 is wide for a guy who's dangerous with his grappling. At minus nearly 190, Nicolau is money line, so almost 2-1. I do think he wins. Obviously, the value sucks. Moneyline Nicolau, but I do think that plus 600 Hail Mary style sub prop could actually be a solid play. So I'm going to light sprinkle that one, and we'll moneyline Nicolau. But I hate having to run it up at minus 188 for a fucking fight where I'm picking Nicolau, and I do think he's really going to win, but Brandon Royval is a really good opponent who's also in a similar career predicament. Both guys on the come up looking to challenge for the belt. Nicolau, official prediction, we shall see. Next one brings us to the featured prelim. It's TJ Brown and Bill Algeo. I've been fairly confident that Bill Algeo is going to win all week long. I'll tell you this much. After the scales, I said, not going to throw Algeo on a parlay. Not going to moneyline him either because TJ Brown looked like he went Super Saiyan. Compare the frames side by side. And then when you think about the wrestling skill set TJ Brown brings, Algeo could get bullied in close. Look at the muscularity. That's strength right there. That's grappling strength. I know Bill Algeo, he's not a weak guy by any means, but that's a significant difference in the muscle mass. And the height is not all that substantial. You got 2 inches favoring Algeo. They say 3, but this doesn't look 6 foot to 5'9". This looks 6 foot to 5'10" or 5'11" to 5'9". It doesn't seem like a substantial difference in height between these two guys. I think TJ Brown makes it a very competitive fight. As good as he looked on the scale, I would tell you, I don't like the idea of betting a Bill Algeo. Now, TJ Brown, notably throughout his career, has not been incredible, right? But look at wins. Kai Kamaka, solid fighter. Charles Rosa, iffy fighter, but still, at one point, very solid. Ran over Eric Silva. You see the loss to Shailan Nordenbeke, the loss to Danny Chavez. More impressive wins, though, for Bill Algeo, for an absolute fact here. I mean, he's been in there with high level. The last 5 have been all good, solid dudes. Algeo on paper should definitely get the win, but he's definitely in a scrap. So the pick is going to remain Bill Algeo at that nearly minus 200, minus 188. I'm just not craving the money line bet. I understand people are going to attack the TJ Brown side. The way he looked at the scales wouldn't make you crazy if you're considering doing such a thing, a value bet on the plus money side. I'll note this about this fight. If you said, listen, I have to play something, I have a very strong hunch that we are going over 2.5, which is minus 200. I know it's 2-1. I know that's not super valuable, but that is a confident call because I see these guys matching up competitively against one another, which makes a bet money line wise so unappealing for me, especially if I got to play Algeo at nearing minus 200. I understand people like TJ Brown. Brown by decision, plus 265. Algeo decision, upwards of plus 165. The pick is Bill Algeo, but I feel as though the betting side is maybe lay off this one. If you're going dog on TJ Brown, I don't think you're crazy. And also over 2.5 because I see these guys matching up well in extremely competitive fashion. But Bill Algeo should edge it by this much. It's a sweater, though. It's going to be a sweater. I'm kind of thinking maybe like a 29-28 Bill Algeo. Over 2.5 could be a sneaky play, though, for sure. Next fight on the card brings us to the main. Make sure you guys smash that like button. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. It's Clay Guida versus Rafa Garcia. The pick all week has been Rafa Garcia. And I've been thinking to myself, how is the OG of OGs going to look on the scales. I mean, Clay Guida is not, the youngest guy in the game anymore. He's been around for a long time. I've picked the side of Rafa Garcia. Note that both these guys looked in really good shape. I know Rafa and Guida both are here to win the fight. I expect a dog fight, a competitive-ass matchup that goes the full 3 rounds. You can see Guida there right in his face. He has a visible six-pack. You see the freaking leanness on the side of Garcia. I lean Rafa on a competitive decision, a very competitive decision. It's hard for me to say I want to pick a 41-and-a-half-year-old lightweight in Clay Guida, even though he looked really good. Moneyline Rafa Garcia throughout the week earlier, I think I was feeling a little bit more. But after the weigh-ins, it's like minus 260 to percentage of definite win. Like, I think Rafa probably gets it done on the scorecards here. But Clay Guida is a over 2-1 dog. This is a guy who's won big fights. Michael Johnson, Leonardo Santos, Scott Holtzman. Rafa Garcia's wins are over Machete, Jesse Ronson, and Natan Levy. 3 of these guys, they don't hold a jockstrap to Clay. Loss, Drakkar Klose. I believe he would beat Clay Guida. And then Chris Grutzmacher, that's, a fight. Kind of looks like Clay Guida a little bit, but different style of striking. Looking at this fight, I want to look at Guida's record real quick. Now we're getting into the real fucking nitty-gritty here. He's going long all the time. Look at this decision. Leonardo Santos subs him, but Leonardo Santos a little bit. Or he subs Leonardo, excuse me. But Leonardo well past the prime. The Pueyas sub. Pueyas is a fucking freak. Scott Holtzman. I'm picking Rafa Garcia. Don't get me wrong. As I'm sitting here, I don't want you to think I'm pondering the pick. I'm not. But could Clay Guida edge out a competitive decision where it's justifiable to consider a plus 225 sprinkle? Maybe if you're not going money line. But what I do think is a great play is over 2.5 rounds. This is another fight. I think it goes longer. I think the stylistic matchup between these two, that over 2.5, in my opinion, I'll call it a lock. Put the fucking quotes on it. A lock in this matchup, I think, is going over 2.5 rounds. And I think Garcia wins a very competitive decision. But you wouldn't be crazy for wanting to bet Clay Guida. Because, it's not like he's losing every fight. He's in matchups. Even the Mark Madsen fight, people thought he should have won that fight. We'll see how Rafa Garcia defends a takedown. Maybe a live bet. Maybe Guida's landing these takedowns and you're like, yo, let me throw down on him live before that tag gets wide. Rafa Garcia official call, though. I'm not straying from my original pick. I rode with his side for a reason, and that's because I do believe he's going to land punches, fend off takedowns, and be in a competitive scrap with Clay. So Rafa Garcia on the cards, over 2.5. Also a good play. I'd say a great play, especially in a parlay. Let's jump to the next matchup. Pedro Munhoz, Chris Gutierrez. The pick here is Chris Gutierrez. He looks solid on the scales, and he's fighting Pedro Munhoz, who at this point might be a little bit past the best days for himself. A little bit past the best days, I'd say. Not like he's way out of his prime, so I think him going the full 3 rounds could be fairly likely here, but I think one of these fights that I'm saying is going distance is going to end up being a finish. I think Chris Gutierrez is more dangerous than Pedro Munhoz. Just Munhoz does have great durability. There's the face-off. I think Gutierrez lands great strikes on him from range. Rips those legs up. Both guys will attack low kicks, but Gutierrez will do it better. I think Gutierrez hits with more power. And I think Pedro Munhoz, in a boxing versus boxing, I favor the side of Gutierrez as well. So I'm going Chris Gutierrez to win. I'm going to call unanimous decision, but he's been knocking some people out. Bategro, Frankie Edgar, and then, these fights are just so unimpressive to me, like a Colares split. But I don't think we look at that Colares split and like, yo, he's going to lose the fight to Munhoz. No. Different stylistic matchup. And I think a different Chris Gutierrez. Chris Gutierrez is like turned that corner. I think it's the best we've ever seen from him. I'm saying Chris Gutierrez, unanimous decision. He takes out the OG, Pedro Munhoz, in this matchup. Odds for this one, Gutierrez at minus 200. Pedro Munhoz sitting at that plus 180 tag. Yeah, give me Gutierrez. I don't think you play the over here. I think Gutierrez could be a moneyline attack or a parlay piece for sure. What's Gutierrez by KO? Just curious because of value. Plus 400. Gutierrez by decision, which is much more likely, plus 125. I think Chris Gutierrez out kickboxes Munhoz over the course of 3 rounds and wins a unanimous decision here. I feel like pretty damn good about this call. Pretty damn good. Gutierrez for the win. High confidence. Next fight on the card, it's Ion Cutelaba versus Tanner Boser. Listen, Boser is coming down from heavyweight, and I was like, let's see how he looks on the scales. I've been picking Boser all week, though. I do think stylistically he matches up well versus Cutelaba. Also note that Boser was not intimidated in the slightest when he faced off with Cutelaba, who Cutelaba did that little scream. Boser just stared right at him. Boser's been fighting around the world for a long time, and he's always been at the wrong weight class because he is a fucking light heavyweight. He's got the abilities to be a good UFC light heavyweight, and he looked jacked. This is the face-off, but I actually wanted to also just bring up Boser weighing in because I was actually like pretty impressed at the physique this guy brought. Let's look at this for a second. Look at Tanner Boser. He always looked good at heavyweight, but he looks fucking jacked at 205 or 203 rather. This is a fucking high-level frame. You got a guy that can box. You got a guy that's resilient on the floor, punching power in his hands. Ion Cutelaba is not a great 3-round fighter. Cutelaba is a guy, does well early. He can gas later, gets hit with punches, fights overly emotional. And now you're fighting a strong guy who used to fight at heavyweight, Tanner Boser. And I'm going to call Tanner Boser the underdog lock on the card, especially after the weigh-ins. That's the way I want to go. I've been talking to the people in the live streams and saying I want to start attacking these underdog locks instead of just locking it up to fucking minus 200 and shit. Obviously, be intelligent with the bet, but I'm high confidence in Tanner Boser. He's the underdog lock right here. Look at him. Great shape. Intense face-off. I think he's knocking Cutelaba unconscious. Second round, I think the hands get flying. Boser, even in his most recent loss, this is against a guy who's 265, big monster, and he loses a competitive split. He had the dude stumbling all over the place. You hit Cutelaba with the same shot, I don't think he eats it. Cutelaba finds his way out of fights when they ain't going well. Boser by KO. Official call. Money line on Tanner Boser, plus 110. Cutelaba sitting at minus 125. Let's also look at Cutelaba, Boser. Let's go. Boser KO. Plus 310 best value, but plus 210 more likely what you'll find. I like that plus play. On the money line, I got dog money. I'm attacking it, underdog lock. And then we're looking at we're looking at Boser to win by knockout. Plus 210. Under 2.5, probably likely 2 at minus 205. I think Cutelaba falls into Boser's trap, man. I think Boser sets him up. Win in between the mix with Devin Clark, and he had some moments against Dustin Jacoby. 3-fight losing streak. Boser's solid. I've always been a Tanner Boser fan. I knew about Tanner Boser before he even came to the UFC, and he was ready to fight anybody, anytime, anywhere. And I really feel at 205, his game's going to improve. I'm going Tanner Boser KO. Official call. Let's get to the featured bout. Dustin Jacoby versus Azamat Murzakanov. Or Murzakanov. I'm always saying his name left and backwards. You know what I'm saying? I apologize, Azamat. Listen, normally I am always picking the OV, but in this case scenario, am I really picking Homer Simpson over the glory kickboxer, Dustin Jacoby? I'm not. Let's look at Homer real quick. Excuse me, Azamat. We'll call him Homer Simpson. But look at him on the scale. He looks like shit. I know this is not a physique contest, but he did look terrible. Now, he's not a bad fighter. He's dangerous. Switches his stance is nice. Good southpaw. Fucking explosive. Big left straight. Big left overhand. Some grappling skills too, but very undersized for this matchup here. You're looking at a Dustin Jacoby, as I said, glory kickboxer, has not lost an MMA fight in a very long time. I mean, I guess he did lose to Khalil Roundtree in the last one, but I thought it was a bad decision. Look at the face-off. Big range advantage for Jacoby. Does Azamat find that kill shot? I get the intrigue maybe because, hey, let me throw down on fucking Azamat. Give me that fucking plus money. But the likelihood for me, I don't think so, man. I don't think it's all that likely. I think that the side of Dustin Jacoby's for the win, man. We're riding Dustin Jacoby. I feel pretty good about him pulling this thing out. I think the hands fly, big shots land, and I'm calling it Dustin Jacoby by unanimous decision. The face-off gives me confidence, too. I'm not impressed by Azamat on the scale, so there's no pick flip for me in this matchup right here. No pick flip. I ain't pick flipping. Nothing changes. Looking at the odds, though. Minus 155, Jacoby. Plus 135, plus 145 range, Murzakanov. Not going to play a bet on Jacoby. I do think Jacoby by a decision is likely, but the plus money is just not enough for me to attack it. Plus 230. Over 2.5 rounds, minus 110. I do think it's going over a round and a half. I think that's better. If you can find minus 175 over a round and a half, I think you throw a little something on that. I don't think that's a bad idea by any means. But I'm picking the side of Dustin Jacoby by a unanimous decision. Decision unanime for Dustin Jacoby. Next fight on the card brings us to the co-main. It's Edson Barboza versus Billy Q. Listen, both guys, you know what you get on the scales from both guys' impressive frames. I've been picking underdog Edson Barboza to win. I really do think he pulls it off. I think the stylistic matchup is interesting for me. I feel as though Barboza, he's got some to show after some fat L's that he's been taking. Look at the face-off here. I'll tell you something. Edson Barboza's face does look a little bit old. Looks a little weathered. Looks a little worn. Billy Q, not much younger than him, though. 37 to 34. And Billy Q's been fighting forever, man. I remember when I saw Billy Q in person at an MMA event in Tampa. And, geez, I was like a sophomore in high school. And he'd come through the Ultimate Fighter then. So he's been fighting for so fucking long. Billy Q's an OG, and he's got a good record, 17-4. But he's never fought an Edson Barboza. I think Edson lands dangerous kicks on him. Even though Edson hasn't done great in his last 10, you can look, there's controversial decisions in the mix. There's highest of level fighters that he's facing off against. I'm going to say Edson Barboza. I'm going to call a knockout. I'm going to go Edson Barboza by second or third round TKO in a junkyard dog scrap with Billy Q. Edson puts a little bit of a statement out there that, hey, it ain't over yet. It ain't over yet for me. Don't sleep on him. Don't sleep on Edson Barboza, people. Don't sleep on him. Plus money, dog side. I like the dog attack. Didn't call him the underdog lock, but I do think he wins as a dog. Plus 140. Billy Q, minus 160. I like the plus money Edson Barboza. I like the KO a lot less. Plus 485. Yes, it's valuable, but it definitely could go distance. But I see a dog scrap between these two. Under 2.5, minus 115. It's close money. Give me the dog. Give me Edson Barboza by KO. That's the side that I'm riding with. I think Barboza lands, man. Billy Q's good, but he is pretty damn hittable because he comes to fucking fight. And Edson Barboza, when he hits, when he kicks, significant damage happens. And I think he fucking does a ton of significant damage here. So we're going with Edson for the win as we move on up to the main event of the evening. If you guys haven't, make sure to smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. It's Max Holloway versus Arnold Allen. The pick throughout the week has been Max Holloway to get the win, and I think shut up the doubters, because I still think Max Holloway's got some fight left in him. He lost to Volkanovski in the last one. That is top tier pound for pound, former pound for pound #1 before John Jones got it back. We'll bring up Arnold Allen on the scale first. There's Arnold Allen, lean, good shape, looks solid as always. He's a dangerous southpaw, explosive, well-rounded, nice low kicks, big flurries in close. There's Max Holloway, much more of a precise striker. Max Holloway is excellent with his stand-up, considered himself the best boxer in the UFC at one point. Probably not the best, but one of the better, very high level, maybe at featherweight outside of like a Volkanovski. But he's up there. Max Holloway's volume is crazy. He doesn't get tired. And dude, this is like a new look Max Holloway. You can tell he's in his 30s now. This is adult Max Holloway. Looking to make a final run for the belt, and he's not counting out another fight with Volkanovski. He's also not counting out a run at lightweight. Love to see it. Holloway's still looking confident, and I think Holloway's still very dangerous. I think he lands a lot of shots through the guard on Arnold Allen. In a hard-fought war, Max Holloway pulls off a win. Looking at the face-off here. Let's see these two staring down right at one another. This is a great face-off because it's very simple. There's not a ton to it. There's no intensity. It's calm. I mean, no intensity is wrong. There's actually a ton of intensity because both these guys tomorrow are going to attempt to kill one another inside of the cage. Who is the one who's victorious? I'm going to say Max Holloway 49-46 by a unanimous decision. In the first 2 rounds, Arnold Allen will be at his most dangerous. He'll be unable to finish Max Holloway, and then I think is where the danger ensues. After those first 2, Holloway's going to find a lot of shots, and I think he picks Arnold Allen apart over the 5 rounds. So Max Holloway to win, and the blessed belt, baby, still the blessed champ. Minus 155, Max Holloway, plus 155 for Arnold Allen. Looking at the over 4.5, okay, maybe minus 130. Decision win for Max Blessed Holloway, plus 175. I do think he wins a decision at plus 175. The odds of him getting a TKO, plus 250, don't feel as good. More likely he wins a decision, but, I wouldn't go crazy with that prop bet. I do think he could be a money line play as the favorite. You're betting against a dangerous guy, though, on Arnold Allen. But ultimately, until Max Holloway loses a non-title fight, I've said this all week, I'm not going to be picking against him. So the official call, Max Holloway, 49-46, unanimous decision, and he's still on top. Guys, it's time for some parlays. Let's talk about it. What are we thinking for parlays? I want to give you guys some plus money, but not just plus money, high likelihood. Let's say we added in Tanner Bozier. Let's say we added in Matheus Nicolau, plus 229. Let's say we got the over in the Clay Guida fight, over 2.5, plus 390. Let's say we also sniped Chris Gutierrez for the win, plus 648. I think this could be a good play. You like Zellhuber? So do I. Plus 1,246. Big plus money. So we got Nicolau, the over in the Guida fight, Tanner Bozier as a dog, Chris Gutierrez, and Daniel Zellhuber. I would probably not go any crazier than this. This would be crazy. I would say I like Bozier in it for value, but you could also do an over 2.5 with Clay Guida and a Chris Gutierrez, but you're not nearly going to get that plus money. You could go Gutierrez Nicolau in the over 2.5 in the fight with Guida. You could go Zellhuber over 2.5. For the Guida fight. I'll clean the slate off and we'll do some value one, do some, I guess, less valuable ones. But that plus 1,200, I like that a ton. But let's say you wanted to ride with just Zellhuber and the over 2.5 here, which I do think has a good chance of coming through. Plus 168. 2-fighter play, good plus money, and I think high likelihood of success. I like this a lot. If you want to add on top of it, yeah, you could add a Chris Gutierrez, plus 300. But I don't think, you should get too crazy with the parlays this week. I am going to get crazy, though, for just a second. Just a second. I'm going to get fucking nuts. Who do I want to add in? Nicolau, where are we at? Who else do we got? Said I like the over here, so I'm going to add it in. So add an over there, plus 1,900. Now it's getting fucking wild. Say you got Bolaños, plus 3,073. Bolaños, the over in the Algeo and the over in the Guida fight. Chris Gutierrez, Tanner Bozier, Daniel Zellhuber. And let's say, you know what? You're like, fuck it, I'm throwing it all. Plus 7,000 if you got Edson Barboza as a dog too. 7, 8, 9, 7. Not saying do this. At this point, you might as well just add in Max Holloway. Not telling you guys to do this either. These are just pure Hail Marys that I'm throwing out there, which, hey, maybe could happen. I like the one that I gave first more. But, hey, I don't think this is impossible. If all this happened on fight night, wouldn't blow my mind. Guys, the weigh-in recap show. Another one in the books, another great show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Turn those post notifications on too. Tomorrow, like I said, I'll be live for the entire card, so tune in to the Fight Companion, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Then I'll throw up a recap show after as well. Let me know what you think of the picks in the comments. Throw your favorite pick on the card or your favorite bet in the card in the comments too. And if you got nothing to say in those comments, at least drop a W in the chat for your boy to boost the algorithm. Thank you all so much for the continued support and tuning into the show. Great fights tomorrow. I can't wait for it. Much love, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace, guys.